In the heart of the African village of Aitoro, the sun rose slowly, spilling golden light over the mud huts, the red dusty paths, and the lush green farmlands. Roosters crowed in the distance, children's laughter echoed from the stream, and the smell of fresh akara frying in Mama Fola's stall filled the air. Life was simple here, peaceful, or so it seemed. Among the people of Aitoro lived a young girl named Lomi Okiki. She was just 17 years old, but her beauty was like a blessing carved by the gods themselves. Her skin was the rich tone of roasted cocoa beans, her eyes sparkled like the morning dew on yam leaves, and her smile could melt even the grumpiest elder's heart. Lomi was not only beautiful, she was kind, respectful, and humble. Every elder in Aitoro knew her name. "Good morning, Baba Tund," she would call out every morning as she walked past the blacksmith's shed. "Good morning, Moyejide," she would greet the old woman selling cassava by the roadside. Even the market women who fought over customers would pause to smile at Lomi. In a village where gossip traveled faster than the wind, everyone agreed on one thing: Lomi was a good girl from a good home. Her father, Chief Okiki, was the village head, a man feared and respected in equal measure. Tall, broad-shouldered, with a voice like rolling thunder, Chief Okiki ruled Aitoro with strictness and pride. He valued honor above all things, and in his eyes, a single act of shame could stain a family's name forever. Her mother, Nonna, was the opposite, soft-spoken, warm, and gentle, the kind of woman who always saw the good in people, even when they had done wrong. But on this particular morning, the peace in the Okiki household was about to shatter. Lomi had been feeling weak for weeks. She avoided food, tired easily, and sometimes woke up nauseous. Nonna, worried for her only child, had insisted they visit the village physician, Baba Adewale. He was a man in his late 60s with a calm voice and eyes that seemed to see right through you. After examining Lomi carefully, Baba Adewale called Nonna aside, away from the curious eyes in the waiting area. "Nonna, I do not know how to say this, but your daughter is 6 weeks pregnant." Nonna's heart stopped. "What?" she gasped, her voice trembling. "You must be joking. You must have made a mistake. Please, check again." "It is impossible." But Baba Adewale only shook his head slowly. "I have checked twice. It is certain." Nonna's hands flew to her head, her wrapper loosening at her waist. She staggered backwards, almost falling. "Pregnant? How? When? Where?" she cried, 100 questions storming through her mind. They walked back home in silence, Nonna's heart heavy. Inside the small sitting room, she faced her daughter. "Lomi, the physician says you are pregnant. Please, my child, tell me who the father is." Tears filled Lomi's eyes, but she said nothing. She only looked away, her lips trembling. "I am your mother," Nonna pleaded softly. "I will not judge you. Just tell me the truth." But Lomi's silence was like a wall, unshakable. When Chief Okiki returned from the village meeting that morning, Nonna knew she could not hide it. She told him everything, her voice breaking. The moment the words left her mouth, Chief Okiki shot to his feet so quickly that his wooden chair crashed to the ground. His eyes blazed, his fist clenched. "Under my roof," he thundered. "My own daughter, pregnant, and she will not say who is responsible." His voice was so loud that birds scattered from the trees outside. Within minutes, curious villagers began to gather outside the compound, whispering to each other. Some came out of worry, others came for gossip. Chief Okiki stepped into the courtyard, his daughter kneeling before him. In his hand, he held a long cane, though he had not yet raised it. "You were the pride of this house," he said in a low, dangerous voice. "Now you have brought shame to my name. If you want to be a mother, then you will live like one. From today, you are no longer my daughter. Leave this house." Gasps erupted from the crowd. Nonna rushed forward, falling to her knees beside Lomi. "She is our only child. Please, my husband, have mercy. But Chief Okiki turned his face away. His decision was final. The scorching afternoon sun hung mercilessly in the sky, burning down on the red clay paths of Aitoro. The air shimmered with heat, and even the goats sought shelter under the shade of the mango trees. Lomi stood at the gate of her father's compound, clutching a small raffia bag Nonna had hastily packed for her. Inside were 2 wrappers, a faded blouse, a small gourd of water, and a few wraps of roasted yam. Beside her, Nonna's eyes were swollen from crying, her trembling hands holding tightly to her daughter's arm. My child, I cannot go against your father, but please, wherever you go, do not forget me, Nonna whispered, her voice breaking. Lomi hugged her mother so tightly that her fingers dug into her wrapper. I will never forget you, Mama, she said, tears falling freely. One day, I will come back, and I will come back stronger. But before Nonna could respond, Chief Okiki's deep voice boomed from inside. Nonna, leave her. Let her go before I curse her with my tongue. Nonna flinched. She pressed a small calabash of palm oil into Lomi's bag, a silent mother's blessing, then stepped back as her daughter began the long walk out of the only home she had ever known. The villagers watched silently. Some shook their heads in pity, others whispered behind their hands. Children pointed, not understanding why the once smiling Lomi was living in tears. The road stretched endlessly ahead, lined with tall palm trees swaying gently in the wind. With every step, the dust clung to her bare feet, and her tears fell onto the hot earth. The sun began to set, painting the sky in fiery shades of orange and red. By nightfall, Lomi had reached the outskirts of the village. Crickets sang in the darkness, and the forest loomed ahead like a shadow with no end. The wind carried strange whispers, and every snapping twig made her heart race. She clutched her bag tighter, whispering a prayer to the heavens for protection. Finally, too tired to walk any further, she spotted a small abandoned shed by the roadside. The roof was leaking, the walls leaning dangerously, but it was shelter from the cold night air. She lay down on the rough wooden floor, her hands protectively over her belly. That night, sleep did not come easily. Her mind replayed her father's words over and over. Shame, disgrace, betrayal. Each one stung like a whip. And yet, somewhere deep inside her, a small flame of determination began to burn. She did not know where she would go, or how she would survive, but she knew she could not give up. Morning broke slowly over the dusty road, the mist lifting to reveal the distant hills. Lomi's back ached from sleeping on the hard wooden floor of the shed. Her stomach growled loudly, reminding her that she had not eaten since yesterday afternoon. She took out the roasted yam Nonna had packed, broke a piece, and chewed slowly, sipping from the small gourd of water. She had barely finished when she heard the sound of footsteps approaching. Cautiously, she stood up and peered out. A tall woman in a bright yellow wrapper was walking towards her, balancing a basket of oranges on her head. Her skin glistened in the early sun, and her gold bangles jingled as she moved. When she spotted Lomi, the woman stopped and tilted her head. "Oh, my daughter, what are you doing out here all alone?" she asked in a sweet, musical voice. Lomi hesitated. She didn't want to reveal too much to a stranger, but something about the woman's tone made her feel a strange mix of safety and unease. I am on my way to the city," Lomi replied softly. The woman stepped closer, lowering her basket and placing it on the ground. She studied Lomi from head to toe, her dusty feet, tired eyes, and the small bulge in her belly. "You are with child," the woman said matter-of-factly. "And yet you are walking on this dangerous road." You must come with me. My name is Mama Udu. I help girls like you. I have a place, warm food, a soft bed. You will be safe." Her words felt like a blessing to Lomi's weary body. She had no money, nowhere to go, and the thought of a safe bed was tempting. But deep inside, something whispered caution. Still, she nodded. "Thank you, Mama," she said, picking up her bag. Mama Udu smiled, revealing a gold tooth that glinted in the sun. She picked up her basket and gestured for Lomi to follow. The road to Mama Udu's place was long and windy. They passed through thick forest paths where monkeys chattered overhead and strange birds called from the trees. Eventually, they emerged into a clearing where a cluster of small mud houses stood. Children played in the dirt, their laughter filling the air. Women pounded fufu in large wooden mortars, their voices rising in rhythmic songs. Mama Udu led Lomi to a larger house at the center. The moment they stepped inside, the air smelled of strong perfume mixed with something else. Something metallic and unpleasant. Lomi couldn't place it. Inside, a few other young girls sat quietly, some with distant eyes as if lost in thought. Mama Udu's smile never faded as she introduced Lomi to them. "This is our new sister," she said warmly. "She will stay here now. No one will harm her." But as Lomi settled into a corner of the room, she noticed something strange. The girls barely spoke, and when they did, they avoided Mama Udu's gaze. A heavy feeling settled in her chest. She told herself she was just tired, but in truth, she had just stepped into a trap she couldn't yet see. Night fell over the small compound like a heavy blanket. The crickets sang their endless song, and a faint drumbeat from some far-off celebration echoed through the trees. Inside Mama Udu's big house, the girls sat quietly on thin mats. Some were sewing clothes, others peeling cassava. Lomi sat in a corner, her hands resting on her belly, her eyes scanning the room. Mama Udu entered, wearing a bright red head tie and holding a small leather whip in one hand. Her sweet voice from earlier was gone. Now, her tone was sharp and commanding. "You all know the rules," she said, her gold tooth flashing under the lantern light. "When I speak, you listen. When I give orders, you obey. Anyone who disobeys will regret it." Lomi's stomach tightened. This was not the warm, kind woman she had met on the road. Mama Udu's gaze fell on a girl named Amoka, who had been staring at the floor instead of peeling cassava. "Why are you slow?" Mama Udu barked. I'm tired, Mama," Amoka whispered. Without warning, Mama Udu struck her across the back with the whip. "Then you will learn to walk even when you are tired," she shouted. Lomi flinched at the sound. She looked around and noticed how none of the other girls reacted, as if this was normal. Her heart began to pound. Later that night, when Mama Udu left the room, Lomi whispered to the girl beside her. "Why is she like this? I thought she was helping us." The girl glanced nervously at the door before answering. "She doesn't help anyone. She sells us to men in the city. Some girls don't come back. Others," she trailed off, her eyes glistening with tears. Lomi's breath caught in her throat. "Why don't you run away?" she asked in a trembling voice. The girl gave a humorless laugh. "Run? Where? There are guards outside. And if you try, they will beat you, or worse." That night, Lomi couldn't sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Mama Udu's smile turning into a snake's hiss. She knew she couldn't stay here. She had to escape, not just for herself, but for the child growing inside her. She made a silent promise in the darkness, "I will get out of here, and I will take as many of these girls with me as I can." 3 nights later, the moon was hidden behind thick clouds, and the compound was quieter than usual. Mama Udu had gone to the next village for business, leaving 2 guards outside the gate. Lomi sat on her mat, her hands trembling slightly. She had been studying the guards' movements for days. She knew that one of them always wandered off to smoke behind the mango tree, leaving only one man at the gate for a few minutes. Those few minutes would have to be enough. When the moment came, Lomi quietly signaled to Amoka, the girl who had told her the truth. "Tonight, we try," she whispered. Amoka's eyes widened in fear, but she nodded. The 2 girls slipped out of the sleeping room, moving like shadows along the mud wall. Their bare feet made no sound on the cool ground. They reached the gate just as one guard yawned and walked toward the mango tree. Lummy took a deep breath. This was it. But just as she reached for the latch, a rough hand grabbed her arm from behind. She gasped and turned. It was the second guard. His eyes were cold, his grip like iron. "Where do you think you're going?" he growled. Before she could answer, he dragged her toward the center of the compound. The noise woke the other girls, who peeked from the doorway. Mama Udu wasn't there, but the guard didn't need her permission to punish anyone. He shoved Lummy to the ground and raised his stick. "You think you can run from Mama? You think she won't find you?" The first blow landed on her back, sending pain shooting through her body. Amoka screamed for him to stop, but he swung again, harder this time. Lummy bit her lip to keep from crying out. She knew if she showed fear, they would think they had broken her. In her mind, she kept repeating, "This is not the end. I will survive. I will get out." When the beating was over, the guard threw her back into the sleeping room. Her whole body ached, but her spirit burned brighter than ever. She now knew two things for certain: Mama Udu's control was absolute, and escape would take more than courage. It would take a plan. 2 days had passed since the failed escape. Lummy's body was still sore from the beating, but her mind was restless. She had been watching everyone closely, looking for the smallest sign of weakness in Mama Udu's operation. That afternoon, while Mama Udu and the guards were distracted unloading sacks from a truck, Lummy noticed a young man standing near the far fence. He wasn't one of Mama Udu's men, his clothes were too neat, his eyes too sharp. For a moment, their eyes met. Lummy quickly looked away, but the man took a small step forward, as if to speak to her. Before he could, one of the guards backed. "Hey! Move along." The man raised his hands in surrender and slowly walked away. But just as he disappeared behind the fence, something small slipped from his hand and landed near Lummy's feet. She glanced down. It was a folded piece of paper. Heart pounding, she picked it up and hid it in her wrapper before anyone could see. Later that night, under the thin moonlight, Lummy quietly unfolded the paper. Inside, written in hurried, crooked handwriting, were just a few words. "I know who you are. I can help you. Wait for the signal, K." Lummy stared at the note, her mind racing. Who was K? How did he know her name? Was this a trap, or her first real chance at freedom? She tucked the note into the hem of her wrapper, whispering to herself, "If this is real, it might be my only chance." Far away, hidden in the shadows beyond the compound, the young man watched the faint glow of the sleeping room. His jaw was set, his eyes determined. He wasn't just here to help Lummy, he had his own score to settle with Mama Udu. The next morning was unusually quiet. Mama Udu had left the compound early, taking most of the guards with her. The remaining two sat lazily in the shade, playing a game of draft with bottle caps. Lummy's heart thumped harder with every passing minute. Was this the signal Kay had written about? Or was she just imagining it? Around midday, she saw him again, standing just beyond the fence, pretending to be a vegetable seller. His cart was piled high with yams and plantains, but Lummy could see his eyes scanning the compound. When their gazes met, he gave the smallest nod and reached for something under his cart. A moment later, a boar, old, dusty, and covered in chalk marks, rode into the compound. One of the guards looked up lazily. "Oh, children in the street again," he muttered, waving it away. But Lummy understood. The chalk marks weren't random, they formed an arrow pointing toward the far corner of the fence. Her pulse quickened. That night, when everyone was asleep, Lummy crept silently toward that corner. Her bare feet barely made a sound on the dirt floor. She slipped through the sleeping room door, clutching the note from Kay in her hand like a talisman. As she reached the fence, A shadow detached itself from the darkness. It was Kay up close. He looked even younger than she'd imagined, maybe just a few years older than her. But his face carried scars, and his eyes held the weight of someone who had seen too much. "I'm Kelechi," he whispered. "I was taken by Mama Udu when I was 12. I escaped 2 years ago, but I couldn't leave the others behind. I've been planning this for months." Lomi's breath caught. "Why me?" she whispered. Kelechi's voice hardened. "Because you're the only one who still fights back. The others, they've given up. But you," he glanced toward the sleeping quarters, "you still have fire in your eyes." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small key. "This unlocks the back gate. We have a 5-minute window before the night patrol circles back. Are you ready?" Lomi didn't hesitate. Yes. For the first time in months, she felt hope, sharp, dangerous, and alive. Kelechi pressed the small, cold key into Lomi's palm, his eyes scanning the compound one last time. "When I open the gate, run," he whispered. "Don't stop. Don't look back." Her hands were trembling, but her jaw was set. She had dreamt of this moment for months, and now it was here. Kelechi moved quickly, his step silent. He slid the key into the rusty padlock, wincing as it gave a faint metallic click. He pushed the gate just enough for them to slip through. The night air outside felt like freedom, cool and sharp, with the faint scent of wet earth. For a brief second, Lomi closed her eyes and let it wash over her. "Go," Kelechi hissed. They sprinted through the narrow alley, their feet barely touching the ground. Somewhere behind them, a tin can clattered, and one of the guards shouted, "Who's there?" The shout was followed by the sound of running footsteps. "Faster," Kelechi urged. They turned corner after corner, weaving through the sleeping village. A stray dog barked, adding to the chaos. Lomi's lungs burned, but she didn't dare slow down. Suddenly, a figure stepped out from the shadows ahead, another guard. His eyes widened in recognition. "You," he roared, lunging toward them. Before Lomi could react, Kelechi grabbed a broken plank from the ground and swung it hard. The guard stumbled back, clutching his arm, and they dashed past him. Finally, they reached the edge of the village, where the road split into 3 paths. Kelechi didn't slow. "This way," he panted, leading her into the thick forest. "They won't follow us here, too many spirits." The forest swallowed them in darkness, the sounds of pursuit fading behind. But Lomi knew it wasn't over. She still had no idea where they were going, or if Kelechi truly had a plan beyond this moment. Still, for the first time in years, she was running towards something, not away from it. The forest was alive, but not with comfort. Every branch seemed to whisper, every rustle in the undergrowth made Lomi's heart pound harder. The moon was their only guide, slipping in and out of sight through the thick canopy above. Kelechi moved like a man who knew these woods well, his steps sure even in the dark. Lomi tried to keep up, but the ground was uneven and covered with roots. She stumbled, catching herself on the rough bark of a tree. "We can't stay on the path," Kelechi said quietly. "They might have trackers." "We move deeper." "Deeper," Lomi whispered, glancing into the pitch-black beyond. "Yes," he replied, his voice low but firm. "Better to risk the spirits than the men." The air grew colder as they went further in, the trees taller, their twisted branches tangling overhead like skeletal arms. Somewhere in the distance, an owl hooted, low and haunting. They walked for what felt like hours until they found a small clearing where moonlight spilled across the ground like silver water. Kelechi stopped, listening. Lomi was about to ask what he heard when something moved at the far edge of the clearing, a tall, thin shadow, gliding between the trees without a sound. "Kelechi," she breathed. "I see it," he said, his hand moving slowly to the machete at his side. The shadow stopped, as if sensing them. It tilted its head unnaturally, and for a moment, Lomi swore she saw two glowing eyes peering at them. "Stay behind me," Kelechi murmured. Then, without warning, the shadow darted into the darkness. They heard it moving, circling them. "Kelechi, what is that?" Lomi whispered. He didn't answer immediately. When he finally spoke, his voice was low and tense. "If it's what I think it is, we can't let it follow us till morning." The forest had gone silent, too silent. No insects chirped, no leaves rustled. It was as if the trees themselves were holding their breath. Kelechi's grip tightened on the machete. Lomi could see the muscles in his forearm tense with every movement. Her own palms were sweaty, and she kept glancing over her shoulder, afraid the shadow would appear there instead. A twig snapped, close. Too close. Before Lomi could react, the tall figure emerged from the tree line. It wasn't entirely human. Its limbs were too long, bending at odd angles, and its face was hidden under what looked like a mask made of bark and feathers. Two pale, glowing eyes burned from within the darkness. Lomi's breath caught in her throat. "That's not a man." The figure tilted its head again, just like before. Then it spoke, but its voice didn't come from its mouth. It seemed to echo inside their heads. "The girl walks the cursed path, the debt must be paid." Kelechi stepped forward, putting himself between Lomi and the creature. "We owe you nothing. Leave us." The creature's head jerked sharply. Blood runs in her line, old blood, stolen blood. Lomi's eyes widened. "What are you talking about?" she asked before she could stop herself. The spirit's gaze locked onto her. "The sins of the father, the burden of the child." Suddenly, it lunged. Kelechi swung the machete, the blade scraping against the creature's arm. A sound like 100 whispers filled the air, and the spirit staggered back, not in pain, but in surprise. Kelechi grabbed Lomi's wrist. "Run!" They bolted through the forest, branches tearing at their clothes, roots catching their feet. Behind them, the whispers grew louder, chasing them like an unseen wind. They didn't stop until they reached a riverbank, the moonlight glimmering on the rushing water. Kelechi turned to her, breathing hard. "That thing isn't just after us, it's after you." The moonlight made the river shimmer like silver, but Lomi's heart felt heavy as stone. She clutched her chest, struggling to catch her breath. "Kelechi, what did it mean?" "The sins of the father," she asked, her voice trembling. Kelechi hesitated. His eyes darted to the water, then back to her. "There's something you need to know. Something your mother never told you." Lomi's breath caught. "About my father?" He nodded slowly. "He wasn't just an ordinary man. Years ago, before you were born, your father," Kelechi paused, swallowing hard, "made a pact." Lomi's brows furrowed. "A pact? With the forest spirits," Kelechi said. "He was desperate. He wanted power, wealth, respect. And in exchange, he promised them something no man should ever promise." The air seemed to grow colder. "What did he promise?" Kelechi's eyes met hers, filled with both pity and fear. "His firstborn." The words struck Lomi like a slap. Her knees weakened, and she stumbled back. That's not true." "I wish it wasn't," Kelechi said, his voice breaking. "But that creature we saw? It's a debt collector. It's been watching you since the day you were born. And now, it's come to claim you." Lomi's mind spun. The pieces began to fall into place, the strange dreams she'd had as a child, the shadow that sometimes followed her in the market, the way animals would grow restless whenever she passed. She remembered her mother's eyes, always full of worry, always watching the doorway at night. Her voice was barely a whisper. "So all my life, I was never really free." Kelechi stepped closer, gripping her shoulders. "Listen to me, Lomi. You are not your father's promise. You are your own person. and I will not let them take you." The sound of a distant drum echoed through the trees, deep, slow, and growing louder. Kolechi's face hardened. "We have until sunrise before it comes again. We need to find the elder, she's the only one who might know how to break this." Lomi took one last look at the river, the moon's reflection shivering in the current, and then followed Kolechi into the darkness. The forest felt alive that night, not in the way of rustling leaves or chirping crickets, but in the way shadows seemed to watch and listen. Kolechi held Lomi's hand tightly as they approached the elder's hut. It stood at the farthest end of the village, away from the sound of drums, surrounded by dried calabashes hanging from the roof. They clinked gently in the wind, like quiet whispers. The door creaked open before they could knock. "Come in," a voice said, low and firm. They stepped inside. The air was thick with the scent of burning herbs. Candles flickered in small clay pots, casting strange shapes on the walls. The elder sat cross-legged on a mat, her skin dark and wrinkled like old leather, her white hair wrapped in a deep indigo scarf. Her eyes, however, were sharp, almost too sharp, as if she could see beyond the present. "You bring the girl," she said, looking directly at Lomi. Lomi's heart skipped. You know about me." "I know more than you wish I did," the elder replied. "The river spirits have been restless for years. I told your mother this day would come." Kolechi stepped forward. "We came for your help. Tell us how to break the pact." The elder's eyes didn't leave Lomi's face. "Pacts with spirits cannot be broken easily. They are like debts, only payment satisfies them." Lomi swallowed hard. "Then what must I pay?" The elder shook her head slowly. "Not you. The one who made the pact must pay, but your father is gone." "Gone where?" Lomi asked. The elder's voice dropped to a whisper. "Beyond the living, into the river of shadows. If you want to be free, you must go there and confront him yourself." Kolechi's eyes widened. "You mean?" "Yes," the elder said, her tone grave. "A journey to the realm of the dead. But be warned, once you enter, the spirits will try to trick you. They will wear the faces of those you love. If you speak to them, if you touch them, you may never return." Lomi felt her chest tighten. "And if I refuse?" The elder leaned forward, her eyes burning like embers. "Then when the sun sets 3 nights from now, the debts will be collected, and you will vanish into the river forever." The candle beside Lomi flickered, as if agreeing with the elder's words. For a long moment, no one spoke. The forest drums had stopped, replaced by an eerie silence. Finally, Lomi straightened her back. "Then tell me what I must do." The elder gave a slow nod. "Very well, child. But understand this, when you leave, you will not return the same." The elder handed Lomi a small clay bowl filled with black liquid that shimmered faintly in the candlelight. "Drink this when the moon is highest," she instructed, "and it will open the path between what? But once the way is open, it will not remain so for long. 3 hours only, after that, you will be trapped." Lomi nodded, her fingers trembling as she accepted the bowl. Kolechi frowned. "What's in it?" The elder gave him a look that silenced further questions. "Not everything should be known before it is swallowed." Outside, the night deepened. The moon climbed higher, casting a silver glow over the forest. Somewhere far away, an owl hooted, its call stretching like a warning across the trees. When the moon finally reached its peak, Lomi sat before the elder's fire and lifted the bowl to her lips. The taste was bitter, almost metallic, and the moment it slid down her throat, her vision blurred. She gasped, clutching her stomach. The ground beneath her seemed to tilt, and the shadows in the hut began to move on their own. Kolechi's voice reached her, but it sounded far away. "Lomi. Lomi, stay with me." The elder's voice came next, calm and steady. "Do not fight it. Let the river take you." The world around Lomi dissolved. The fire vanished. The walls of the hut melted into a thick, grey mist. She was standing on the edge of a dark river, its waters flowing silently under a sky with no stars. Beside her, Kelechi appeared, his face pale. This is it. A figure emerged from the mist, a hooded boatman, his face hidden in shadow. He held out a hand without speaking. The elder's voice echoed faintly in Lomi's mind, "Pay the ferryman with something precious, or he would take something of his own choosing." Lomi's heart raced. She had no gold, no jewels, only the small locket her mother had given her when she was a child. It was the last thing she had from home. Her hand shook as she removed it and placed it into the boatman's palm. He closed his fingers over it, then silently gestured for them to step into the boat. The river was deathly still, yet the boat moved without any sound of paddling. The mist thickened, and shadows swirled in the water below. Kelechi leaned closer to Lomi. "Do you hear that?" Lomi froze. Voices, soft, familiar voices, were calling her name from beneath the surface. Her mother's voice. Her father's voice. Even the laughter of a childhood friend long dead. She gripped Kelechi's arm. "Don't answer. Don't look." But the voices grew louder, sweeter, almost begging her to reply. And when Lomi dared to glance at the water, she saw their faces, smiling up at her. The boatman's head turned slightly, as if warning her. Lomi shut her eyes tight. 3 hours. That was all she had. And somewhere ahead, hidden in the shadows of this cursed river, was the father she had not seen in years, the man who had doomed her with his pact. The boat slid to a stop against a blackened wooden dock, its planks rotting and slick with something that wasn't just water. The boatman stepped aside, pointing wordlessly toward a narrow path that disappeared into the fog. Lomi hesitated, but Kelechi touched her shoulder. "We came this far. Let's finish it." They walked. Every step seemed to echo unnaturally, as if the ground was hollow beneath them. Strange shapes moved just beyond the mist, too far to see clearly but close enough to fill their eyes. Finally, the fog thinned, and they saw it, a stone courtyard surrounded by walls covered in pulsating black vines. In the center, a man knelt, heavy iron chains binding his wrists and ankles. His head was bowed, his hair long and matted. But even through the dirt and age, Lomi knew that face. "Papa," her voice broke. He raised his head slowly. His eyes were sunken, but when they met hers, they burned with both shame and desperate love. "Lomi, you shouldn't be here." She ran forward, but the chains rattled violently, glowing with a dull red light as if warning her away. "What happened to you?" she asked, her voice shaking. "Why did you do it? Why make a pact that cursed your own daughter?" Kelechi stood back, watching the scene with tense silence. Chief Okoro, once proud, now broken, looked away. "I had no choice. The drought was killing our village. People were dying. The river guardian promised rain in exchange for my firstborn soul." Lomi's breath caught. "You sold me." "I thought I could trick him," Okoro whispered, tears welling in his eyes. "I thought if I gave him someone else, he would spare you. But he knew. He always knew." The black vines on the wall stirred, as if listening. A deep voice, neither fully human nor beast, rolled through the courtyard. "The debt must be paid." The ground trembled. From the shadows beyond the wall, something began to rise, tall, skeletal, with skin like wet stone and eyes burning like twin coals. The river guardian had come to collect. Lomi's hands curled into fist. She wasn't ready to lose him, not yet. "If there's a debt, then I'll pay it my way." The creature's head tilted, curious. "And what do you offer, daughter of Okoro?" The river guardian's voice slithered through the air like a cold wind. "What do you offer?" Lomi's heart pounded so hard it hurt. She glanced at Kelechi, whose face was pale but determined. Then she turned back to the towering figure. "I offer myself," she said, her voice steady despite the fear clawing at her chest. "But not as your slave, as your challenger." The courtyard went silent. Even the black vines froze, as if the world itself was holding its breath. The guardian's coal-like eyes burned brighter. "A challenger. You would fight me. A mortal girl. If I win," Lomi continued, "you release my father and end your claim on my bloodline forever." "And if you lose?" the creature asked, its voice deepening to a growl. Lomi stepped forward until the red glow of her father's chains lit her face. "Then you can take me, body, soul, and name, and my father will still go free." Chief Okoro's voice cracked in horror. "No, Lomi. I won't let you." But the chains pulled him back, forcing him to his knees. The guardian tilted its head as if amused. "You have courage, or foolishness? Very well. At Moon's Peak, we will meet in the trial of depths." The black vines on the walls twisted open to reveal a spiral staircase leading downward, the air smelling of salt and death. The guardian vanished into the darkness below, its voice echoing upward, "Prepare yourself, girl. The river takes what it is owed." The ground steadied, and the vines closed again, sealing the path until nightfall. Kelechi grabbed her shoulders. "Lomi, do you even know what the trial of depths is?" Lomi shook her head. "No. But I know I'm not letting him die chained like that. I've lived my whole life under a curse. Tonight, it ends." Far above, the sun dipped lower, its light turning the fog into a molten gold. Time was slipping away. The moon rose like a silver blade over the village of Aitoro, its reflection quivering in the dark waters beyond the shrine. The black vines shifted again, creaking and writhing like snakes awakening from sleep. They peeled away to reveal the spiral staircase once more, the cold breath of the underground calling into the night air. Lomi stood at the top, barefoot, her toes pressing into the damp stone. In her right hand she clutched the charm Mama Noria had secretly slipped into her palm, a carved bone pendant smelling faintly of river mint. "Keep it close," Mama Noria had whispered, her voice trembling. "It will not win the fight for you, but it will remind the river that you are not alone." Kelechi and two of the village elders stood nearby, their faces tight with fear. Chief Okoro knelt in his chains on the far side of the courtyard, eyes locked on his daughter. The guardian appeared in the stairwell, half shadow, half flesh, its cloak dripping water that steamed where it touched the ground. "Step forward, mortal," it called. Lomi took a deep breath and began her descent. Each step down was colder than the last, the air thick with the scent of moss, old blood, and the deep. They emerged into a cavern lit by veins of glowing blue stone in the walls. At the center was a pool as black as night, its surface perfectly still. "This," the guardian said, pointing one long claw toward the water, "is the mouth of Ejiro. Your task is simple: retrieve the heartstone from its depths before the moon disappears from the sky." Lomi's stomach turned. The elders had told stories of the mouth of Ejiro, a bottomless pit in the river where spirits, serpents, and the drowned dead waited for any soul foolish enough to enter. She looked at the water again. For just a moment, she thought she saw a face under the surface, smiling. "If you rise without the stone," the guardian continued, "you lose. And your life will be mine." The sound of distant drumming echoed faintly through the cavern. The guardian's voice dropped to a hiss. "Enter." Lomi gripped the bone pendant, closed her eyes, and dove into the mouth of Ejiro. The cold was immediate, shocking. The water closed over her head, muffling the world above. Shapes moved in the darkness, too fast to see. Something brushed against her ankle, something warm. She forced herself deeper, lungs already aching. The light from the cavern faded, replaced by an eerie glow far below. Somewhere in that glow, the heartstone pulsed like a beating heart. The deeper Lomi swam, the heavier the water seemed to press against her chest, as if the river itself was trying to push her back. The glow of the heartstone pulsed below, slow and steady, like the heartbeat of an ancient beast. Every pulse seemed to whisper into her mind, "Come closer, or turn back before it's too late." Her fingers brushed past long strands of riverweed, but when she tried to move forward, the weeds curled around her wrist like a fist. She yanked free, bubbles bursting from her mouth. Then she saw them. 3 pale figures emerged from the darkness, their hair floating like black smoke in the water. Their eyes were empty sockets, yet Lomi could feel them watching her. The drowned maidens of Ejiro, spirits of women who had failed the trial centuries ago. One of them drifted closer, her lips stretching into a sharp, unnatural smile. Lomi's breath caught. The maiden reached for her face. She remembered Mama Noria's voice in her mind, "The pendant will remind the river who you are." Lomi clutched the bone pendant and a soft light bloomed around her hand. The nearest maiden hissed, her skin blistering in the glow. The others retreated, but not far. They circled her now, faster and faster, their laughter vibrating through the water. A shadow moved below. From the depths, a massive serpent rose, its scales the color of oil, reflecting ghostly colors in the dark. Its eyes glowed faint gold, and when it opened its mouth, rows of needle-like teeth shimmered. The serpent's tail swept toward her. Lomi twisted away, but the force sent her spinning. She hit the wall of the trench and felt her lungs scream for air. She could see the hearthstone now, nestled in a bed of sand between 2 jagged rocks. It pulsed stronger with every beat of her own heart. The serpent lunged. She darted downward, sliding between its coils. The sand exploded upward as the creature struck, and Lomi seized the hearthstone with both hands. The moment she touched it, a warm surge of energy flooded her body. The drowned maidens shrieked. The serpent roared. But the water around her began to shimmer with the same blue glow from the stone, and suddenly she was being pulled upward, away from the trench, away from the darkness. Her head broke the surface and she gasped for air, clutching the hearthstone to her chest. The guardian stood at the edge of the pool, its hollow eyes fixed on her. "You have it," it said slowly, almost respectfully. But the trial was not over yet. Lomi pulled herself out of the water, her clothes dripping and her hair plastered to her face. The hearthstone glowed softly in her hands, casting dancing blue light across the moss-covered stones. The guardian, tall, cloaked in shadows, with eyes like burning coals, stepped closer. "You have taken the hearthstone from the depths," it said, its voice deep and echoing. "But strength alone cannot open the path. Only truth can." Lomi's brows furrowed. "Truth." The guardian raised a long, bony hand. The air shimmered, and suddenly the pool and cave vanished. She stood instead in the courtyard of her childhood home. The sun was bright, the ground warm beneath her feet. And there, standing across from her, was her father, Nazir. He looked exactly as he had the last day she saw him, stern-faced, arms crossed. But something was wrong. His eyes glowed faintly, like the guardian's. "Lomi," he said in a voice she remembered too well, "why did you leave? Why did you abandon your family when we needed you most?" Her chest tightened. She had run away because of the truth she had never dared speak. The guardian's voice rumbled all around her. "Speak it now, or be trapped here forever." Her hands shook as she gripped the hearthstone. She could lie. She could keep hiding. But she thought of Mama Noria's words, of the drowned maidens, of all the girls who had never been able to tell their truth. She lifted her chin. "I left, because you let them hurt me," she said, her voice trembling but clear. "Because you chose your friends over me. Because I was just a child, and you didn't protect me." Nazir's face twisted, the illusion shattering like glass. The courtyard melted away, replaced by the cave once more. The guardian stood before her, silent for a long time. Then it nodded. "Truth is heavier than stone," it said. "You have carried yours with courage. The path is open." Behind the guardian, the stone wall split apart with a grinding roar, revealing a staircase bathed in golden light. Lomi took a deep breath, the hearthstone still warm in her palms, and stepped forward toward the light. But in her gut, she knew the hardest part was still ahead. The golden light at the top of the staircase was so bright that Lomi had to shield her eyes. Her feet touched the final step, and the air changed, warmer, softer, carrying the scent of ripe mangoes and wild jasmine. Before her stretched a vast open hall, its ceiling lost in shimmering mist. At the center stood a pedestal carved from black stone, and on it, a bowl of water so clear it seemed invisible. A woman stood beside it. She was tall, draped in flowing white cloth, her skin glowing like polished bronze. Her eyes held centuries of wisdom. "Welcome, Lomi," the woman said, her voice like wind over a river. "I am Ame, keeper of the hearthstone." Lomi held the glowing gem close to her chest. "I came here to return this. My people, they are suffering. The rains have stopped. The wells are dry." Ame stepped closer, studying her. "You may place the hearthstone back in its cradle and restore the balance. But there is another path, one that carries a greater price." Lomi frowned. "What do you mean?" Ame's gaze deepened. "You may also keep the hearthstone, and use it to rewrite your own fate. You could heal every wound, undo every hurt you've suffered. Your life would be whole again." But, she glanced toward the bowl of water. "The drought will remain. Your people will still suffer." The choice struck Lomi like a spear to the chest. She thought of Mama Noria, her friends in Aitoro, the children who fetched water from miles away. But she also thought of her own scars, the years of shame, of loneliness, of betrayal by the ones who should have loved her most. Her fingers tightened around the hearthstone. "Why give me this choice?" she whispered. "Because," Ame said softly, "a true queen is not crowned by gold, but by the choices she makes when no one is watching." The hall was silent except for the sound of her heartbeat. Slowly, Lomi walked to the pedestal. She could feel the warmth of the hearthstone pulsing through her skin, like it was alive. She lifted it above the bowl of water, and closed her eyes. Lomi's hands trembled over the bowl of water. Every heartbeat felt like a drum echoing in the silence. She could almost see her life rewritten, a life without betrayal, without the night she had been cast out, without the years of struggle. But then, her mind went to Adora's smile, Mama Noria's wrinkled hands kneading dough at dawn, the dusty faces of Ayatoro's children waiting for water that never came. She took a deep breath and whispered, "My pain made me who I am. I will not erase it. But I will end theirs." Her fingers opened, and the hearthstone dropped into the bowl. The water exploded with light, shooting golden beams to the ceiling. A deep, rolling thunder shook the hall, and far away, miles beyond the mountains, dark clouds began to gather over Aitoro. Ame's lips curved into a proud smile. "You have chosen well, daughter of the soil." She dipped her hand into the glowing water, then touched Lomi's forehead. "Go, and see what your heart has brought forth." In the blink of an eye, Lomi found herself standing on the dusty road outside Aitoro. The villagers were looking up at the sky in disbelief as the first raindrops began to fall. Children danced barefoot in the mud, women sang, and old men raised their hands in thanks. Mama Noria came running, her wrapper flapping in the wind. She pulled Lomi into a fierce embrace, both of them drenched and laughing through tears. "You did it, my child," Mama Noria cried. "It wasn't me alone," Lomi said softly, looking at the villagers. "It was all of us, our faith, our endurance, our love for each other." That night, the village feasted under the rain, cooking pots steaming and drums echoing into the hills. For the first time in years, Aitoro slept to the sound of water on rooftops, a lullaby that promised life again. Lomi knew she had given up her own chance at rewriting the past, but in return, she had written a better future for everyone she loved. And that, she realized, was worth more than any crown, any title, or any dream she could have bought for herself. Weeks passed after the rain returned to Aitoro. The streams filled again, the farmlands turned green, and laughter came back to the dusty parts of the village. But for Lomi, there was still one wound left untended, the wound in her own family. Word spread quickly that Chief Okoro, her father, had grown frail. His once proud stride had bent, and his voice no longer carried the authority of a chief. Each evening, he sat quietly on the wooden stool outside his compound, staring at the road that led out of the village, the same road where he had once cast away his only daughter. One golden evening, a convoy of cars rode into Aitoro. The children ran barefoot behind them, shouting with excitement. Women peeped from their kitchens, wiping their hands on wrappers. And then, the doors opened. Lomi stepped out, draped in a flowing gown of deep blue, her hair wrapped in a scarf of gold. Beside her, little Adora held Mama Noria's hand, smiling shyly at the gathering crowd. Is that not our Lomi?" one villager cried. The girl who was rejected, yet returned as a queen. Chief Okoro stood slowly, his shoulders sagging, his beard now completely grey. For a long moment, he stared at Lomi as if he were seeing a ghost. His lips trembled. "You, my daughter." Lomi walked closer, her eyes glistening with tears. "Papa, you know the truth now. All those years I kept silent, it was not because I was guilty, but because I knew you would never believe me. Mr. Andrew, the man you called brother, he is Adora's father." The crowd gasped. Some clutched their chests, others muttered prayers. Chief Okoro's knees gave way, and he fell to the ground before his daughter. "Forgive me, Lomi," he sobbed. "I failed you. I cursed you when I should have protected you. I threw away my own blood and allowed a serpent into my house. I paid the price in full." Lomi knelt beside him and lifted his chin gently. "Papa, I forgive you. That is why I came back." She opened her bag and pulled out folded documents. "This is a deed of land in your name. And another for Mama. I have also cleared every debt you carried because of Andrew. You lost your pride, but today, I return it to you." The old chief's hands shook as he held the papers. His tears dropped on them, staining the ink. Then Adora stepped forward, her tiny voice cutting through the silence. "Grandpa, are you crying?" The villagers laughed softly, and Chief Okoro gathered her into his arms, kissing her forehead. "Yes, child. I am crying because your mother is stronger than I ever was." That night, Aitoro came alive with celebration. Drums boomed, fire torches lit the night, and songs of joy echoed across the hills. Not for a chief, but for a daughter who had become a queen in her own right. From that day, the once proud Chief Okoro walked with humility, greeting even the poorest of farmers with respect. Mama Noria helped Lomi open a branch of Adora's Bites in Aitoro, where the scent of fresh meat pies and coconut buns filled the mornings. But Lomi did more. She built a foundation for abused girls and single mothers, opening shelters, sponsoring schools, and giving voice to those long silenced. She never wore a crown, but she ruled in the hearts of many. A girl who had once been cast away returned with more than riches. She returned with forgiveness, healing, and a legacy that would outlive her name. Not everyone celebrated Lomi's return. Evil still lingered in the shadows, waiting for its downfall. Mama Udu, who had long been involved in child trafficking, finally faced justice. One fateful morning, police stormed her hideout in the city after one of her victims escaped and reported everything. Her arrest shocked many, but for those who knew her cruelty, it was the justice they had prayed for. She was taken away in chains, screaming and cursing, but her power was gone forever. As for Anthony, the deceitful man who once tried to lure Efuna with false promises, his end came bitterly. He picked up a young girl from the streets, thinking she was helpless. But when he attempted to take advantage of her, the girl fought back with all her strength. With a sharp object, she stabbed him in the scrotum and escaped. That night, Anthony was rushed to the hospital, but he lost the very thing he used to destroy others. His shame became his punishment. Meanwhile, Lomi's story continued to spread far and wide. Newspapers, radios, and television carried her tale of resilience and forgiveness. Many women, inspired by her courage, began speaking up against the men who once silenced them. The silence was broken, and healing began in many broken homes. Back in Aitoro, the village flourished. The compound of Chief Okoro, once marked by sorrow, now overflowed with laughter, food, and music. Adora grew surrounded by love, carrying the hope of a brighter future. Mama Noria, proud and strong, often said, "My daughter was cast away, but she returned as a savior." Lomi had become more than just a baker, more than just a survivor. She was now a symbol of hope. Never judge a person's story by the chapter you walked in on. People make mistakes, but that doesn't mean their journey ends there. Everyone deserves a chance to grow, to heal, and to rise again. Silence protects the abuser, but truth, though painful, brings freedom. Lomi's silence was born of fear, but when she finally spoke, her voice didn't just heal her, it saved countless others. The people we throw away are often the same ones who return to lift us up. The daughter they rejected became the one who restored her family's name, cleared their debts, and brought peace to a broken home. Every fall is a lesson. Every betrayal a test. But healing is a choice. Movie camera, now it's your turn, my dear viewers. What lesson did you take from this story? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single one with joy. Glowing star. And don't forget, another powerful African tale is coming soon. Subscribe to my channel African Tales by Zuri, turn on your notification bell, and share this story with your friends. Someone out there may need to hear it. Thank you for watching till the end. Until next time, stay strong, stay kind, and remember, every story has the power to heal. Red Heart.